Hi, in this video we are going to talk about sample space, events, and getting the probability of an event. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to accurately define the probability of an event, accurately determine the number of outcomes of a sample space and an event, and correctly solve for the probability of an event. What is a sample space? A sample space refers to the set of all different possible outcomes of an experiment. Set of all different possible outcomes of an experiment. Example, when we flip a coin, the sample space is given by S equals H or T. H represents head and T represents a tail. Bakit HT? Kasi yun lang ang possible outcomes when we flip a coin. It's either a head or a tail. When we say event, it refers to any set of outcomes derived from the sample space. Again, it is derived from the sample space. Example, when we roll a die, the sample space is given by S equals the set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bakit ito? Kasi when we roll a die, di ba yung isang die, merong 6 outcomes yan. Yung 1, if you can imagine a die, 1, 2, isang tuldok, dalawang tuldok, tatlong tuldok hanggang sa 6. So it has 6 faces. So the sample space are given by this one. So you can have 1 or 2 or 3 hanggang 6. One possible event for this experiment is getting an even number in rolling a die. So the possible outcomes for that particular event is given by E equals, it's either 2, 4, or 6. Now for this particular event, we have 3 possible outcomes for this event. So pwedeng 2, pwedeng 4, pwedeng 6. Now, probability. So when we say probability, probable, it refers to the measure of certainty or uncertainty that a particular situation or event will happen. Okay? It's the chance of getting a particular event. Okay? So if E is an event, then the probability of an event is given by P of E. And that's defined by probability of an event, or P of E, equals the number of ways an event can occur divided by total number of outcomes. In symbols, we may express the probability of an event as this one. So we have P of E equals N of E over N of S. Ano pa yan? So P of E, of course, the probability of an event, and N of E is the number of outcomes in the event. And N of S is the number of outcomes in the sample space. Okay? Again, this is for the number of outcomes in the event, and this is the number of outcomes in the sample space. Example, find the probability of getting ahead in flipping a coin. Getting ahead in flipping a coin. Take note that when we flip a coin, it's either a head or a tail. So the sample space is given by HT. So we only have 2 outcomes from the sample space. So since getting ahead appears only once as an outcome of the sample space, it follows that the number of outcomes in that particular event is just 1. Right? So solving that, kasi we have N of S, of course, there are only 2 outcomes in the sample space, not 2 outcomes, it's H or T. And so that is P of E equals N of E over N of S. So the probability of getting ahead would just be 1 over 2. Okay, so the probability of getting ahead in flipping a coin is 1/2. Let's try this. What is the probability of getting ahead and a tail if 2 coins are tossed? 2 coins are tossed. Take note that in this problem, the order of which you obtained a head and a tail does not matter. The order does not matter, so we are talking about the combination of the outcomes. Okay? Combination tayo. The order does not matter. So let's determine first the number of outcomes of the sample space. Kasi dalawang coins sila, dalawang coins. So, pwedeng head-tail, pwedeng tail-head, pwedeng head-head, or pwedeng tail-tail. Okay? So, it follows that we have 4 outcomes in the sample space. Okay? 4 outcomes in the sample space. So, determine the number of outcomes of the event. The event is to get head and a tail in flipping a coin. A head and a tail in flipping the coin. Thus, the set of that particular event, we can either have a head or a tail or head. Okay? It follows that the number of outcomes in that particular event is 2. And let's solve the probability. So, the probability of that particular event is equal to n of e over n of s. So, the number of outcomes in the event is 2, and the number of outcomes in the sample space is 4. And that is still 1/2. Okay? So, therefore, the probability of getting both heads is 1/2 or 0.5. Getting a head and a tail. No, not both heads. Of getting a head and a tail. Okay? Is 1/2 or 0.5. Now, what is the probability of getting a sum of 4 when a 6-sided die is rolled twice? Dalawang beses i-roll ang die. Alright? So, let's analyze this problem. So, even though the die is going to be rolled twice, the event only refers to the sum. Okay? The sum of 4 of the 2 values obtained. So, which is a single number rather than a pair of numbers. So, single number lang siya. So, halimbawa sa first roll ng die mo, nakakuha ka ng 1. Sa second roll ng die, nakakuha ka ng 3. So, that's counted as 1 already because 1 plus 3 is 4. Okay? So, let's determine the number of outcomes of the sample space. Sample space muna tayo. The first roll of the die has 6 outcomes. And the second roll also has 6 outcomes kasi the same die naman yon. So, by the use of the fundamental counting principle, FCP, the number of outcomes in the sample space would be 6 times 6. Okay, kasi there are 6 outcomes on the first roll. The second roll, 6 outcomes. So, 6 times 6, that's 36. FCP yan. Now, let's determine the number of outcomes of the event. Okay? The event is getting a sum of 4. Let us first determine the possible outcomes of the event. Since we want a sum of 4 in rolling the die twice, the possible outcomes are 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1. Bakit ito lang? Kasi ito lang kasi naman yung mga outcomes ng rolling a die that would give us a sum of 4. So, 1 plus 3, 4. 2 plus 2, 4. 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay? It follows that the number of outcomes in that particular event is 3. Okay? Now, let's solve the probability. Probability of getting the event would be n of e over n of s. So, yung outcomes ng event natin is 3 and the total number of sample size or the sample space, the number of outcomes in the sample space is 36. So, that's 3 over 36. So, that is 1 over 12. Therefore, the probability of getting a sum of 4 is 1 over 12.